welcome to this week's lesson, lesson 13. Right there at the end, here we go. With that, we'll just go ahead and jump right into what we've got coming up this week. So in life skills, we are going to be talking about work, grit, and deliberate practice. This is a great topic. I love this topic. It talks a lot about just the sheer fact that we need to work. It's just part of life. I think this is such a good topic, especially in today's world with social media. You seem to always hear about these like get rich easy schemes, or like, oh, I did this and now I make, $20,000 a week or month or whatever, and it's just like, there's so much out there, so much content out there that it just starts making you feel like, oh man, there's like easy ways to do things. Anyways, I've always been a real believer in just working hard. I think with that comes working smart as well. I'm not saying you just, whoever is the hardest worker, physically hard worker, or goes out and does the most, you got to be deliberate in what you are working hard at in order to have some success. But at the end of the day, the person that works hard, that has grit, that deliberately practices things, that that shows up to the job on time, that does a good job, that makes sure that they're completing assignments on time. I know that's kind of with school, but in work, that's the way it is too. Usually you have due dates for things to be done. The person that does those things is typically going to get the promotions over somebody else, right? Because you're known as a good worker, a hard worker. So I, personally in my life, I feel like I have seen this. I've always tried to be one that's on time and do a good job on my assignments, complete my tasks, maybe go a little bit above and beyond of what was asked of me, and that's really helped me kind of advance my career. I've been out of school for 5 years now, just a little over 5 years, almost 6 years, and I was able to go from entry level to a manager position where I'm at now in just a mere matter of I've had this job for about a year, so about 5 years. And I think a lot of that comes from just working hard and not being afraid to put myself out there and try new things. So I hope you enjoyed this week's lesson. I think it's interesting. There's so many good quotes in there from past general authorities that just talk about the importance of working hard. So hope you enjoy that portion of the life skills. In writing this week, we are going to be learning about a very important aspect of writing, and it's not even the physical writing part. It's what you do after you write something, and that is proofreading. Oh man, I can't tell you how much I emphasize proofreading. Probably because I remember when early on in school, I was terrible at proofreading. I'd write something and I'd be like, I don't even want to look at this anymore. I've already been staring at my screen for the last 2 hours while I've been writing this. I don't want to read this. And I'd just submit something, right? And then I'd get my paper back and it would be all marked up. And there would be so many things on there were just tiny little grammatical errors, right? Like I forgot a period or a comma, or I wrote the same word twice, or I forgot to put a word in there, just things like that. So I really want to emphasize the importance of proofreading. When you're done writing any sort of paper, email, anything like that, it's a good idea just to read over it, just to make sure it makes sense. What I personally like to do is I like to read out loud. I think that helps you kind of hear your errors and make sure you read word for word. That will help maybe bring out some of those simple errors. Like when you read it out loud and you hear it, you're like, oh, does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense to you that wrote it, then it definitely isn't going to make sense to somebody else that's reading it. So another part of proofreading that's a great help is getting an outside opinion. Sometimes we're a little reluctant on that. We're like, I don't really want anyone to read this. Yet you're going to submit it to a teacher and your teacher's going to read it. So why not ask a friend or a colleague or a family member to read it too? And that, what will happen there is when you write a paper, sometimes you think things and then you don't get it on the paper, right? And so when you read it back to yourself, you kind of remember what you were thinking as you were writing it. And so naturally in your brain, you'll just add those words or that sentence into it. And because you kind of know your thought process. When you hand it to somebody else to read, and I think I've mentioned this before, all of a sudden they're reading it, they have no idea what you're thinking. So if things don't make sense and aren't flowing, they're going to be really good at letting you know about that. So I definitely recommend when you write a paper, I know this is kind of towards the end of this class, but don't worry, you are not done writing papers. You will still write papers in college. So this will not be the only time. So in the future, make sure that you definitely do that. The last thing, and you'll be happy to hear this, math. Math this week There is no new material. Yep, you heard it right. This week is purely review. So you've learned everything that we're going to learn about math in this class. Now we're just going to review. So that's some light at the end of the tunnel there for you for math. If you are struggling with the math, because I know at this time it is getting more and more difficult, you know, as the semester progressed, it got harder and harder. So if you are one that is struggling, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to try and help you out. If you haven't met with a tutor, try and meet with the tutor. Get in contact with the tutoring center, and you can get some time set up for a tutor. Please don't feel like you're left in the dark. So, with that said, enjoy math this week as you review. You're going to be reviewing all the material throughout the semester. Now, luckily, the material kind of builds on itself throughout the semester, so it's not like reviewing all the new concepts. So even at the end, you were doing some of that stuff that you learned at the beginning. So this week in math, it's meant to just be a really good comprehensive review. So I hope you enjoy this week, next to last week of the class. So keep going strong. You're almost there. And let me know if you have any questions. Bye.